All right, guys, Ian Scotto here. I swear, I really do my best to avoid getting political in any way these days on any social media forum, because of the fact that it all becomes a lot of infighting. There's not a lot of logic being thrown out there, and it just becomes a giant fucking waste of time. So I actually try to stay off social media as much as possible these days, although I do need it for my job, so I do end up getting sucked into the drama fest of stuff. I don't have any notes on me, and this is all really spur of the moment, so just keep that in mind. But there's so many things being talked about right now politically in the world, and everybody feels the need to react to everything before they even have any really any knowledge on the topic at hand. So because I've been guilty of it, I try to stay away from that and avoid doing something like this unless it's a topic that I have some knowledge on that I could actually express and try to teach people something on. I don't know if this video will change anybody's mind, but it's just going to lay out some facts of, as you see, why Oliver North, the incoming president of the NRA, is absolutely correct in what he said. And I was just like, I don't know, I never feel this way these days, but I felt completely compelled to make this video, blogging on Twitter and seeing people react to Oliver North and going, what an idiot. Ritalin is to blame for school shootings. It's guns, stupid, and all the same shit that we hear every time this happens. Which, by the way, yes, it is happening at an alarming rate. But just statistically, you're way more likely to die in a car crash or many other things, whether you're a child or not. Than a mass shooting. These things happen relatively unoften. However, they're reported on for weeks on end because, as Dana Lash said correctly, it's basically a ratings bonanza for these places like CNN. They can pretend that they hate that this happens all they want, but they love it because you guys, many of you watching, tune in and you check out the debate. And the point of any media, as one of my mentors, John Mullen, once said, is selling people to advertisers. And you get people to tune in. People buy products that advertisers sponsor on. By the way, I'm going to honestly try not to go all over the place here, but there's just so many thoughts on this particular subject. So anyway, it's actually kind of funny because just the other week, Oliver North was named president of the NRA, and all these people, these millennials who didn't even know who the fuck Oliver North was until that day, just all they know him for is Iran-Contra. And it's like, okay, is he unqualified to be the president of an organization like the NRA because of Iran-Contra? Because under that logic, you would also say that someone like Hillary Clinton couldn't be the president of some liberal organization, and that would be completely ridiculous. I may not want the woman to be the president, but she's completely qualified to do a lot of things in politics, just as I would say Oliver North is. I've met Oliver North, by the way, and interviewed him. Extremely knowledgeable guy, and I think he's a great guy for the job. And I'm so happy that finally someone is not dancing around the issue of prescription drug abuse. I could be wrong, but I think Wayne LaPierre, he talked about mental health and also threw out a lot of, honestly, pretty ridiculous solutions for how to solve this. I don't think a lot of what he said is reasonable or that it would work. And actually, what Oliver North said is going to be a really tough issue to fight because, unlike the NRA, the prescription drug lobby owns both sides of the aisle. When you attack, it's like when you attack Planned Parenthood, you're going off of half of our government. Liberals stand by them, Democrats in government. Just like when you attack the NRA, you're attacking basically half the aisle of our government. But when you attack prescription drugs, all of these people, all of our constituents, just about, maybe literally a handful of people in Congress are not getting money from the pharmaceutical lobbies. So just think about that. All right. So getting into the crux of the issue of why Oliver North is 100% correct. I'm only going to mention one statistic in this whole video, but it's a big one, and I'll mention that in a little bit. The rest of it, yes, is anecdotal, but it'll all add up. All right. So, yes, we've had an epidemic of school shootings in the recent years, which, like there's people blaming Trump, and I'm by no means a Trump supporter, but it's pretty ridiculous. Like, this has been going on a long time. It has nothing to do with Trump. All right, before I was born, and when many of your parents were born, there were rifle teams in schools, right? The high school I went to, Manhasset High School, there's a weight room in the basement. You want to know what that used to be? It used to be a shooting range, and there was a rifle team. Were there school shootings at that time? Absolutely not. Yeah, I'm sure there were some, but extremely few. I've done the research on that, okay? Now, people are going to say, yeah, but those are rifles. Those weren't AR-15s. All right, for those who don't know, I work for a special operations military site in the private sector, journalism site, southrep.com. And I work with a lot of snipers and also just military guys who are very into guns and gear. I've been to SHOT Show several years, which is the major gun convention, which, by the way, great people there. Very cool to go every year. But ask them, all right? Ask your friends who have expertise on weapons, and they'll tell you that the AR-15 can't really do much more, if any more, than a shotgun. It's just scary looking, okay? There are far more powerful weapons on the market than the AR-15. So these people who are saying sensible gun control, we just want to ban the AR-15, it would do absolutely nothing. A lot of the people saying that just incrementally want to ban more and more things, because the so-called assault weapons ban has already been done before. It was done during the Clinton administration, while I was alive, and there was a rise in violence, okay, in gun violence. So you can look that up. It is absolutely factual. So these people saying, like, we've never done anything before, yes, we actually have had an assault weapons ban in the 90s, and it didn't have any impact. So, you can try to do it again. It's not going to do anything. The solution that a lot of these groups want is they incrementally want to take your guns away. And they want to, and they're doing that currently on these platforms like YouTube and Facebook by shaming you for being a gun owner, and it's gonna keep getting worse. That's why, now more than ever, I will stand with the NRA. And for those saying that sounds ridiculous, all right, the Bumble dating site, they've gotten rid of guns. YouTube will no longer monetize videos with guns. Facebook, and I know this from legitimate sources at Facebook, have not only gotten rid of any ads, Facebook ads that show a gun in them, they've gone so far as to ban anything that has to do with that basically appeals to males. They don't want anything having to do with like toxic masculinity or any of that. So it's kind of scary that the people who own these corporations in many ways have become not only more powerful, but more power hungry than the government itself, with how they want to do things. So yeah, there is definitely a public movement to shame shame gun owners, I should say. All right, so I already went into the AR-15. The next point I should probably bring up, and like I said, I'm doing this with no notes, just in my car, is the topic of gun control. No matter what your stance on it, is pretty much obsolete in the next few years, because with a 3D printer, and it's going to be extremely common to have a 3D printer, just like everything else in technology, you will be able to print any weapon that you want. If you want to print an automatic weapon, you'll be able to. That might be an extremely scary thought, but it's true, and it's the future, and once the technology is there, there's very little you can do to stop it. So you could say to Congress, ban the AR-15. Let's, which they did in New York which just, sucks because people who are firearms enthusiasts just can't buy it, which is by far the majority of gun owners, who are just law-abiding citizens buying these things legally. So not only will you be able to just buy an AR-15 off the street, you'll be able to go to the guy down the block with a 3D printer and have him print something far more powerful than that for you. So that's just the way technology is going. There's nothing you can do to stop that. You might disagree with it, but you can't stop technology. Okay, I should probably get in them. I am a little scatterbrained. I should get into the main point, though, that Oliver North made about prescription drugs. And I feel like I had to at least backpedal on the issue of guns before we get to this. So, here's the one statistic that I will give you, and you can look this up. The United States consumes 75% of the world's prescription drugs. 75%. And you can look this up at the, I'm making sure I have this right, I believe, National Institute of Drug Abuse, which is government funded. I believe I have that name right, but you can do the research on your own. If you Google 75% of world's prescription drugs, is consumed by the U.S. Do your own research. You'll see that that's correct. So these drugs, like Ritalin that Oliver North mentioned, are 100%, FDA cleared and all that. But are they meant to be given on such a large scale? There's certainly people who probably could use Ritalin, could use Prozac and all these drugs. I'm not denying the importance of Western medicine and modern pharmaceuticals. However, as Oliver North rightfully stated, many of these kids have been on these drugs since they were a little kid. And if you don't think that's going to screw with your biology and screw with your thoughts, you're out of your mind. Now, the argument is always made that it's too easy now to buy a gun. As a gun owner, all right, and actually, and I'll go into this, as someone who as a kid was diagnosed with ADD, which I think for the most part is a bullshit disorder, it is far easier to get prescription drugs than to buy a gun. To buy a gun, you have to go through a background check, all that stuff. People will throw out all the stuff about gun show loophole, and all of that has been debunked. This is all propaganda being told to you by people who have no interest in buying a gun and have never bought a gun. People like Michael Bloomberg. So ask a gun owner the process of buying a gun, or ask someone who's gone to a gun show, and they'll tell you exactly what goes down, rather than listening to people who are trying to take away Second Amendment rights. So, extremely easy to be diagnosed with ADD and given Ritalin, which I've never been prescribed, but Adderall and Metadate, which I have been. I can tell you the process. The woman that I went to told me that though she doesn't have ADD, she takes these drugs herself, okay? Because she doesn't want to give her patients something that she doesn't know the effects of. But it's like you're a professionally paid drug abuser, right? I would say. And so these drugs have, they had pretty minor side effects on me, like loss of appetite and things like that. But I was also always on them for a short period of time. But I think it could lead to definitely worse things. That's why when you see a drug commercial, there's all of these horrible side effects. And we ignore that as a society. But you're putting any chemicals in your body. All right, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's marijuana, alcohol, or Adderall, or any of these things. It's going to screw with your brain composition. And if you look at how many of these mass shooters are on prescription drugs, it's overwhelming. All right, and we didn't have these prescription drugs when there weren't mass shootings regularly years ago. Another topic, by the way, is there also wasn't 24/7 media coverage to make these assholes or animals famous, because that's what these people want to do. They want to become immortal, and it's, as I said, a ratings getter for these news organizations. So yeah, there's so many examples of the side effects of putting things in your body that are not supposed to be there, and we should be way more cautious as a society of on a mass scale of how much we prescribe people drugs for every problem, way before we tell people to exercise. These kids, a lot of them are going through puberty. All right, their hormones are coming in. They don't know how to handle it, and instead of like having a positive outlet for that, like some type of sport or martial arts or something like that, because like their body composition is starting to change. They're checking out like the girl next to them in class. They can't, you know how it is if you're a guy, like they can't pay attention to math or whatever's going on. It's regularly not that they have some type of disorder. It's just that they're bored and their attention is on other things. So instead of giving them a positive natural outlet to do these things, we drug these kids, and we're also in a society where we can't even like talk to each other. We're on our phone all day, and people feel very disconnected, and they feel they don't feel a partnership. I don't know if I'm using the right word, or like a camaraderie with their fellow man. They become so disconnected, and then on top of it, they're taking these drugs, and they end up acting in the way that we've seen. Quick example of something. All right, I have a friend who is into bodybuilding and stuff like that, takes steroids, but also has several serious disorders, and he has to take all these different prescription drugs, and he does a shot every month for it. Some of you may know who I'm talking about, but I'll keep him anonymous. So anyway, he normally just goes there. They give him a shot. They don't check your blood to see if you're on steroids. They don't they don't do a background check the way that they would if you buy a gun. So he, as a responsible person, told his doctor, like, look, I'm not going to take this shot this month because I'm on performance enhancing drugs, which, by the way, that screws with your brain chemicals, but at least he has the common sense to say, I'm not going to mix these two things together. But there are plenty of people who do. And this is another topic that no one wants to discuss, but it's true, all right? Transgender issue. When did Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, get into a car accident which ended in a fatality? While Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, was on female hormones. Because much like steroids, but even worse, because steroids are a man taking male hormones. As a man, you should not be taking female hormones. As politically incorrect as it may be for me to say that, it is going to fuck with your brain chemistry, and I'm sure that had a factor in why something like that happened. So I'm going to try to wrap this up, but I think I've made a pretty good argument that we as a society are on way too many things. And it's resulting in people acting out violently. And the way we need to solve this, I think, is to teach the younger generation, or even people with ourselves, that getting on prescription drugs is not something you should never do, but it should be a final resort after you've experimented with a more healthy diet. For you, whatever that may be, go to a nutritionist. Something involving fitness, which I'd say, you should go to a personal trainer probably if you're just getting started on that. And these things may work themselves out, but we're addicted to needing a quick fix for everything. And the consequences of that quick fix, you may not like. All right, so don't attack people's gun rights over this. It is horrible when these things happen, but we as a society need to stop glamorizing the shooter, which ends up happening because of the media. And also, something needs to be done about the drug lobby. But what Oliver North is suggesting is right, but it's a very hard fight because they own both sides of the aisle, and I think it's going to be very hard to get the children of America to stop abusing prescription drugs that their parents give to them, because many of times they are unwilling to do the work in finding an outlet for maybe some aggression or maybe some, just like antsiness of their kids. That's all normal, do the right thing and pay attention to your children if you have children, and don't look for a quick fix for everything. We are addicted to a quick fix for society, and we're seeing the repercussions of it. Hopefully you got something out of that, and if you're going to reply to this because you're like an anti-gun person and say, oh, guns, at least listen to what I said and let it sink in a little bit before you give your counterpoint without any real factual basis or any real understanding of the issue at large. Because I think I've done, just for someone off the dome talking this in a car minutes after I heard about it, I think I've done a decent job articulating exactly what's going on. Maybe at some point I'll write about it, who knows. But that's my stance, guys, and regardless of what yours is, that's okay. I don't expect us all to agree on everything, but at least do your research on the issue before you jump on the blame the NRA, blame Oliver North bandwagon. And with that, I, in the next few days, will definitely become an NRA member again. And the only reason I let my membership run out is because they just send me so much junk mail. They send me I don't know. Let me leave you with this. I'm not even a gun enthusiast, all right? I'm a gun owner, but I barely use it. It's just not something I'm really that interested in doing. When I have free time, I like to work out. I like to hang out with my friends, but it's my right as an American, my constitutional right to own a firearm. So I'm going to practice that. And people could say the NRA is powerful, but you have all these groups, all these people who own these companies for the technology that we use, social media, and our iPhones, people who run all this shit, they're together working very hard to make gun owners obsolete. So there's basically one big association protecting the people who want to practice exercise their right to own a firearm, and I'm going to support them for that. So thank you.